As always, I'm your host, Daniel, with my father and co host, Jerry. Say hi, Dad.
Hello.
Today, we're going to talk about and review Nobody, at least our third or fourth attempt to do so after a bunch of weird technical issues. Um, so, I guess, the big thing in the room is that people have been calling this like John Wick exploitation and stuff, and it kinda is. But I think they do enough to separate it from John Wick.
Yes.
It's not quite as well, it's actually, I think, slightly more brutal than John Wick, maybe. A
Yeah.
bit more. Well, a bit more. Actually, it's more of a dark comedy, but also a bit more serious. I think people get a bit more injured.
Mhm.
Um,
And yeah, John Wick is sort of like a violent opera.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, where the things are really well choreographed and everything. This didn't seem that uh, Bob Odenkirk isn't as uh, athletic as Keanu Reeves, but Bob Odenkirk plays this part to the T. I mean, when you first start, you think of him as a nobody.
yeah. And I think like in this one, he seems like he's been out of the game. Well, it even talks about how he's been out of the game slightly longer, and you see it more in this one. Because he really gets beat up in a lot of these fights and stuff. And hit and shot and whatnot. So it does that, and they're still. I don't think they're quite as well choreographed as John Wick or anything, or they're not just quite as good as John Wick, I should say, or as well choreographed. But that's not to say they aren't still really good and better than almost all other fight scenes out there.
Yeah,
Um,
the fight scenes are good. They aren't quite as humorous as John Wick's
yeah,
are.
but I'd say this movie actually has slightly more humor than John Wick, but
Yeah.
it's a lot more dark humor and stuff. Like where he's talking to, he has the guys lined up in his house on his couch, and he's just kind of talking to him as one of them's dying about how he kind of got out of the business and then back into it and stuff. Obviously, a lot of the stuff with Christopher Lloyd, who plays Bob Odenkirk's father in this,
Yeah.
has a lot of humor and a lot of. It actually, like how kind of John Wick took on the cliches and kind of changed them around and made fun of them.
Yeah.
This one does it too, but more with a dark humor sense to it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, like you have the people that invade his house and stuff, but like people that invade his house aren't even really villains in the movie. They're just kind of desperate.
Yeah.
And he doesn't fight back originally. He talks about how they're scared and everybody's giving him all this junk for it, just crap for it, when he probably did the right thing. And he certainly did the right thing if the gun would have been loaded and he would have hit him because it could have fired and hit his son. But uh, he just kind of snaps and goes after him. But then he just kind of like lets them go. He
Yeah.
takes his watch back and that's it.
Yeah.
He's not really. He's just more mad that what people thought of him, and what he once was
Hmm.
than he was at them. And I found that kind of interesting. And then of course some jerks just kind of show up that deserve what they get,
Yeah.
and it kind of
And
spirals out
even
of control from there.
even though
Hmm.
the jerk deserves what he gets, even though Bob Odenkirk obviously screwed up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't like it more makes fun of the things that everybody thinks he's cooler and this better person after this and tougher
Yeah.
than it embraces them. Like the ending's kind of a plays with it and makes fun of that aspect of it and all of the other things that usually come with movies like this and revenge movies
Yeah.
of this time period. Like, it's like, oh, like how it somehow improves their life and everything, and this one just kind of makes fun of that.
Mhm.
Um, and it did. One of my least favorite cliches and things is when you have one of the characters that just kind of sits there and awaits his death and doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
In this one, like the way it did it was really well done, and the jokes in it were really funny. And the guy actually fights back, big time. Christopher Lloyd is only in a few scenes in this movie, and every scene he's in, he's really funny,
Yeah.
and still intimidating.
And it's sort of incredible for,
Mhm.
he's 82 years old.
Yeah,
and he plays a much younger guy, although he looks 82.
Yeah.
And he plays the grandfather, and the grandfather's sitting there, and all of a sudden two shotguns come out, and
Yeah.
it's just he is Christopher Lloyd, and he's funny like the old Christopher Lloyd
Yeah.
in this setting. Yeah,
Yeah, no, Christopher Lloyd with a bunch of shotguns is a lot of fun in this movie. Uh,
yeah,
and because I liked how like only really him and Bob Odenkirk, Christopher Lloyd, who's his father, not grandfather, and his brother in this,
yeah,
who I don't know if his brother was named, but it's one of the Wu Tang gang members,
yeah,
Wu Tang Clan, not gang, uh, the RZA. Um, uh, and all of them are like, yeah, they're the only people in the movie that kind of talk sense to him, and like, yeah, you did the right thing by not escalating the situation,
yeah,
and handling it probably like you should, just telling the people to get the thing and get out. And they're and they're like kind of against him going to war with the Russian mob, but still join in the end because why not?
yeah,
And we're pretty funny about it. And all like, and each of them in the action sequence did something different, and
yeah. Hmm.
use that.
Yeah, they fight in different ways. Yeah,
Yeah, and like and I do think it's worth mentioning that we kind of talked about earlier how we didn't think the action scenes were quite as good as John Wick, but they were still good. And I think that's saying a lot because the movie we watched just before we watched this one was Police Story with Jackie Chan,
yeah.
which probably has some of the most incredible action scenes and physical stunts in any film ever.
Well, that's what it is. The whole story is just a physical stunt.
Oh yeah, physical
Yeah,
stunts and
yeah,
kind of comic fighting and stuff, and obviously it was something that was a huge influence on these movies,
yes, yes,
uh, clearly, and those. But and I just felt like that's something that was worth mentioning. That uh, it was we saw something that, and we still enjoyed this one and thought it was funny and stuff. After seeing that, it didn't really detract from it, uh, and because the fight scenes overall are pretty good and pretty creative
yeah,
in it. But again, this movie's like John Wick, in which you can kind of tell they're having a lot of fun with it and
yeah.
playing it around.
Hmm. And they got the right people for it. Both
Yeah.
Bob Odenkirk and Christopher Lloyd were the right people to have in the position. And there's a lot of references in all the.
Hmm.
When I was looking through several of the reviews, there's
Hmm.
a lot of references to old movies like. Uh,
Hmm.
uh, like RoboCop and things like that.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
it's
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it obviously makes sense because, like I said, he didn't write or direct it, but produced it. One of the big John Wick guys, David
yeah,
Leckie or something. It's
yeah,
L last name. Who who's been with the John Wick film since the beginning and worked on them. And one of the writers wrote, I think, John Wick 2 and 3. So that makes sense. And I mean, and it doesn't. It's not really trying to separate itself from John Wick or in any way. Uh, it's just trying to kind of take the same story and have more fun with it.
yeah,
I think and kind of tell it a bit different, and that work, and it works really well at that. A lot of the dark humor in the movie is really funny. Like, I
yeah,
mean, the reason he
yeah,
kind of goes after the people is because he's looking for his daughter's kitty bracelet, which he finds under by the couch after he's had this huge fight in his house and it's covered with blood, and he's burning down the house.
yeah,
And he talks about how it's that. Uh, he talks. They have a guy that's a black Russian, and they talk about that and how and it kind of makes fun of that concept
yeah,
on it in that and how the guy was there and all that. And it seems like the guy's in on the joke on it too. It's not like
yeah,
that. He kind of talks about how like the one guy wants to get out and why he got out of it and how they're just kind of messing around on it. I mean, the first scene's him like literally all beat up and bloody and in the police station. He pulls a cat out of his coat. Then he pulls a can of tuna in a can opener and feeds the cat. A kitten, I should say. Um, they do the like, I mean, the ending. They do the thing with where they get the phone call, so they have to let him go. Uh,
yeah,
but and it's one of those things where it understands that that's the joke. It's not taking itself seriously in those situations.
yeah. The like the one critic I read said it's entertaining with a lot of
Mhm.
demented humor.
Yeah, it's very similar to it's very similar somewhat to like a Deadpool or something.
Yeah,
Uh, in that way, and it's like I said, I mean, I've talked about it once, but like the scene where he's talking to the corpse. Well, the one guy's dying, and the other guys are that, and he's just kind of recanting his life story. I found pretty funny. And he's doing it so nonchalantly in this room that's just covered with blood while setting up to burn his house that he's lived in for 10 years down. uh, he he just on his way like to go to the fight, he just steals the neighbor's cool car.
yeah,
And, like the whole neighborhood's terrified that his house is burning down, and he just walks over and he breaks into the guy's car and drives away. Uh, and it's just a lot of little scenes like that that really did work for me, at least.
yeah. It's sort of
Hmm.
a slapstick violent movie.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, uh, again, like it's impossible to talk about this one without John Wick. That even if they were done by different people, because they're just so similar in a lot of ways. Um, and how they play up the revenge story and how they kind of invert it and how it works with the mob and um,
Yeah,
like again and in this one, like I said, I mean, I did really like the fact that in this movie he's very vulnerable. He takes a bunch of punches and stuff. He gets thrown out of the what's it called, the bus at one point. And it just takes him a while to get back up. One time they just stop him by tasering him, and
yeah,
uh, the one guy gets shot and then can't really be of any help. They run out of ammo at points and
yeah.
are worried. So uh, and it does all those things really well. Um,
Mhm.
but uh, so I guess like the main thing is if you like John Wick, you'd probably really like this movie, and we both really like John Wick.
Or even if you like Better Call Saul,
Yeah,
it's
I
sort
mean,
of a violent version of Better Call Saul.
yeah, somewhat. Like I could definitely see some Saul Goodman in this character.
Yeah,
And like some breaking, like, and I'm sure there was a level of joke. I'm sure that was a level of joke there too. The whole time they were making it with like Better Call Saul stuff, and
yes,
they don't directly reference it. But if you've seen the show Better Call Saul, it's about how it's kind of a guy that's always been a bit of a con man, but becoming more so of one, and taking advantage of a system that takes
oh,
advantage of people.
yeah. He's a con man,
Hmm.
but he
Hmm.
is he's trying to help people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, and then this one, like I said, it was just him. Mhm.
yeah,
It, mhm. I mean, it's one of those things that really makes fun of movies in this type of genre, but is clearly also a love letter to them,
yes,
and stuff, and what they enjoy. More so than John Wick, because John Wick was more of a straight version of that, just kind of changed around and
well,
inverted. But this one, just kind of jokes with them and the cliches,
mhm,
and
well,
plays on them pretty heavily.
yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
like 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 I said, you have Christopher Lloyd, who could be seen as the old master that trained them. You have
yeah,
his brother, who's reluctant to get back into it,
mhm.
but comes and saves him at the end,
Yeah.
and gets shot for it, which is one of the
The,
better jokes.
the it's sort of it's very similar to the Kingsman, was made fun of spy movies.
Yeah,
This one makes fun of revenge movies.
yeah, but like both of which kind of very clearly loved the subject and genre of
Oh
it.
yes. Mhm.
It made fun of the kind of the cheesy James Bond ones, but clearly loved them. Yeah, and I think this one is like that. And I mean, it helps that it's legitimately funny and has pretty great action scenes.
Mhm.
like you could probably put these action scenes in a more serious one, and they'd still work. In it.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and Bob Odenkirk was a great choice for this too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Uh,
Both Owen Kirk and Lloyd.
yeah,
Christopher Lloyd.
Odenkirk and Lloyd.
And I'm certain that Christopher Lloyd had a real kick about doing this.
Oh yeah, no, like him just showing up because he shows up in the end, and like you almost have to see a picture. He shows up in the end with like 12 shotguns strapped to him. uh, and he's just kind of walking around shooting them. It's pretty funny.
Yes.
Uh,
Mhm.
on that.
Yeah.
But like I said, and I thought like again they did like a Russian gangster villain who was, for the entire time he was on screen he was pretty entertaining and he was over
Yeah.
the top and just kind of ridiculous. So
Yeah.
they
He
were,
was. Yeah.
uh, I mean he was threatening enough, but he was mostly just there to have fun and be over the top.
Yeah.
Because he's like doing drunken karaoke, and everything. So, yeah, I don't know, like, because it's one of those movies. It's kind of hard because it's mostly a comedy with a lot of action scenes in it, so it's kind of hard to really go into detail on it without just spoiling everything. So I don't know how much more we want to say, and I don't have much more I want to say other than I guess like I think it was number 2 this weekend in the box office behind Godzilla versus King Kong, number 1 last weekend. So go see it.
Yeah.
Unless you have anything else you want to talk about on this one.
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, as always, then thank you for your time, and please remember to like and subscribe. Bye.
But.